I wanted to talk about the first time that you go see your GP with either menopause symptoms or perimenopausal symptoms. So that's when your periods haven't necessarily stopped. They might be irregular or just the same, or lighter or even heavier. But you might have other feelings and other symptoms that something's going on, and often those symptoms are quite subtle to begin with, and you might not even notice that they're happening because they kind of creep up on you. And some of the symptoms you might not necessarily connect with being related to the menopause, and so you might put them down to other things. So some of the examples would be your heart racing, or feeling a bit anxious, or feeling more tired than normal, or sleeping badly. And all of these things can happen as part of normal life, but slowly over time the picture comes together and it becomes more obvious that maybe it's related to the early stages of the menopause. Now, when you first go see the GP, you probably have a relatively short amount of time with them. You might not be someone who sees them regularly. And often at this point in our lives, when you go see the GP about these sort of symptoms, there's lots of other things going on in your life. So you might be a caregiver for children or parents. You might be at the peak of your career and have an awful lot going on. Or maybe your life's just busy. And it's really easy to put down these symptoms to other things. And so you say, oh, I'm just tired because I'm busy. Or I'm starting to feel anxious, but I've got so much on at the moment. But it's really important to try and pinpoint what exactly is going on with the symptoms, so that when you go see your GP, you can be as clear as possible so that they don't put symptoms down to other things as well. Now, one thing that I think is really useful, there's a fantastic GP called Dr. Joanna Newsom. I'll put a link down below, and she has an app called Balance. It's free to download, but there are in-app purchases. But the important bit that I'd like you to look at is actually the menopause symptoms. And you can document all the different symptoms, ones that may or may not be related in your head to the menopause, and make a list, and almost it prints out a report for you, and or on your phone, and you can take that to your GP. And so when you sit down with your GP, rather than spending lots of time with them going through all the symptoms, which are quite extensive, you can really focus on, these are the things that are going on. You've got things going on in your life, but in your mind you think it might be the menopause, and then you can start the conversation from there. Now, in that kind of perimenopausal phase, the blood tests aren't necessarily that helpful. The reason being, in lots of people, your FSH, which is one of the tests of the menopause, can be normal, and it can go up, which would definitely be an indication of menopause or perimenopause, but almost the tests don't help you. The symptoms are really important. So if you go into the appointment already armed with all the information about the symptoms, it can be so helpful. And the other thing that's really useful is if you are thinking about HRT, which is very helpful for treating symptoms, particularly in the menopause and perimenopausal phase. And there's actually good evidence that if you start it during the perimenopausal phase, not only are the results really good, but actually the outcomes, so the risks and benefits that you get from it are optimized. It's important that you kind of have done a little bit of reading and have that conversation with your GP, so you can use the time as best you can. And sometimes it takes a second appointment to then go away and talk about it a little bit more.